So I'm Helen. Mebbie's unfortunately not able to join us today, but so I'll be presenting on both of our behalfs. So to give folks a context of what we were going to be presenting on, so in my role as an Associate Dean in the Office of the Dean of Students, I joined that role, but I still have my faculty hat on too as a prof in arts. And it was, I came with certain perspectives about academic integrity issues and misconduct and the kinds of problems in my area, particularly around plagiarism. And then in working with Mebbie, who is the director of the Academic Success Center and is also an instructor regularly teaching in arts as well. Actually, we were fielding comments and questions from both students and instructors. And when I use the term instructors, I'm including all kinds of people that are instructing. So that includes faculty members, sessionals, ATS staff, in other words, and graduate students, both as TAs or as primary instructors. So we were fielding questions about concerns around academic integrity. Were there better ways to promote the learning of academic integrity? Could sometimes issues around plagiarism or cheating actually be better constructed as learning moments as opposed to straight up punishable offenses? So what we decided to do was to conduct a research project, and this is what we were going to be presenting on. So our initial phase of a research project looking into best practices around academic integrity in higher education and how we could capture some of the concerns that are local in our cultural context at our institution, and then come up with a plan for a way to move forward in phase 2. So we have just completed phase 1. COVID threw us off. So that timeline completely got a little bit more complicated. And then of course, also, it became clear that we needed to also think about the remote environment. So that became a big piece for us as well. What I want to emphasize is that across institutions, academic dishonesty is an issue that our people are grappling with. It is seen to negatively impact the quality of students' learning and the value of an academic degree if it's perceived that there's widespread cheating happening. And various institutions have tried different strategies to address this issue. Disheartening, though, is research that suggests more than half of Canadian university students have participated in academic dishonesty. And even more disheartening is other sources suggest it might be even higher. So historically at the University of Alberta, as I had mentioned earlier, the response to academic dishonesty is through the disciplinary mechanisms available in the Code of Student Behavior. We have also, through the Academic Success Center, have offered academic integrity in-person workshops and then provided some online resources as well, and have worked with our colleagues to support research and teaching initiatives in the incorporation of academic integrity practices into the classroom curricula. At present, though, there's no centralized academic integrity programming. And what one of the outcomes may be is potentially beefing up the centralized resources that faculty, instructors, and potentially associate deans, when it does get to a disciplinary situation, could use as part of their resolution processes, but we can talk further about that. So in the literature, there is, it's quite common now in the last few years in particular to be wanting to shift the focus from academic dishonesty to talking about academic integrity and building a culture, doing a culture shift to support academic integrity. So instead of focusing on the issue like one student at a time that gets caught for cheating or academic dishonesty, what the goal is, and I'm quoting directly here from Gallant's paper, and I can provide citations to folks, is to, what we want to do is to change the environment and culture in which students live, work, and study. This is more helpful. It is instrumental in reducing cheating and enhancing integrity. And so what we need to do, and what other institutions are also trying to do, is to institutionalize a culture of integrity that can move us towards a more proactive and rather than reactive responses that most institutions have been dealing with. So it is in this effort to move towards a more proactive approach to academic integrity that this project was founded on. So one of the things that we've also been working on with colleagues from other institutions in this context is that we need to be looking at ways to, it's almost like a social marketing approach for dealing with academic integrity, because one of the things that I see a parallel with is with health behaviors like drinking of alcohol or binge drinking. There has been a very common understanding, a very common idea that this is a very common, frequent behavior amongst university students, when in fact the research says that it's not as common as everybody seems to think it is. And so a social marketing campaign was developed to let students and others know that actually 4 to 5 students do not do this. And, you know, this is the same kind of thing that we need around academic dishonesty, which is an interesting argument. It is trying to get, this approach is trying to get at the idea that maybe cheating is not quite as common as people think it is, and therefore, and address the idea that it is okay to cheat because everybody else is cheating. And this has been some of the discourse, particularly around the online environment. So that is something that we need to address. And I recognize that as I'm saying this, I started off this presentation with noting just how frequent some of the research suggests that cheating is. So there's a catch-22 here with that kind of approach. Others and other researchers and institutions have recognized that cheating will exist in all of its forms. This will exist. What we need to do then is to redesign our assessments in ways to help minimize the opportunities to cheat or plagiarize. That's been a second kind of major approach towards academic integrity, and particularly in the online environment. And as many of you will know, it has been particularly challenging to create synchronous timed assessments that can also be invigilated or proctored. Another approach that has been used in many institutions is the use of technology in the online environment. So there have been a variety of kinds of ways that people have been trying to use technology to proctor or invigilate students' work and assessment of different kinds, both timed synchronous assessments as well as written materials. The thing here is that these tech innovations don't always consider privacy regulations or other kinds of concerns like that. So what might be okay in some countries, like using bots to basically track people's behaviors online and then be able to track when something is not considered to be normal. And they use this to track plagiarism as well as cheating on timed assessments. In the Canadian context, I personally do not see this happening. It would not be considered ethical to be monitoring people's behavior in that way. So those kinds of solutions are right now, I think many Canadian institutions are grappling with and trying to figure out what is possible with how far can we use tech and what is okay and what is not okay in terms of using tech like cameras as well to invigilate students' work. What is, I think, agreed upon by practitioners and people working in academic integrity issues across Canada is that there needs to be holistic solutions, and that it needs to be a key component in discussions in the classrooms from day one. And so in hearing this kind of advice, I reflect upon how I would teach in a classroom, and I just assumed that everybody knew that, the issues around academic integrity and would practice academic integrity, and I wouldn't really spend much time talking about it. And what the literature is suggesting is that maybe we need to spend more time on this and tie it into how our topics, and because what academic integrity means and how it might be practiced might actually be a little bit disciplinary specific. And we need to be much more proactive as instructors to be bringing it up with students and making it not okay to be doing this. And what I've also heard from the student side is that there are students that are really concerned about the possibility of their peers cheating, and really I don't think that's fair, and really want to see some more proactive kinds of conversations about this as well. So that's a plus. Let's build on those desires to actively create cultures of academic integrity that make sense in particular disciplinary contexts.